How is everyone doing? Welcome back to another episode of The Banker Next Door. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Berquist. Today, I'm going to bring you the 28th installment of the crypto series, and this is called Crypto Bros Gone Wild. So I'm going to bring you an article from the Wall Street Journal, and we're going to go through a story, kind of a little bit of a wild story of these two crypto bros. Now, if anybody has been following the crypto series, you know that I have brought you a lot of crazy stories from the crypto world. I think one of my favorite ones was in episode 5 of the crypto series. I did a review of the Netflix documentary called Bitcoin, which was, again, a wild story. I have no doubt that this story I'm about to share with you guys is going to be a future Netflix documentary. So just keep an eye out for that. But let's look at this article here. So tequila, drugs, and torture. The spending binge of two crypto bros that ended behind bars. So William Duplessis and John Woeltz hatched grandiose plans in business and politics, but instead drew charges in an alleged kidnap scheme. Again, it gets wild. So, all right. Let's start off here. A private jet lifted off on a night in February, ferrying media air, fashion models, and a mix of thrill-hungry luminaries from Palm Beach, Florida, to a novel redneck retreat in Smithland, Kentucky, population of 237. For the guests, Smithland sat in the middle of nowhere at the bend of the Ohio River in a county where most liquor sales are banned. That wasn't a problem. The plane was stocked with Dom Perignon champagne. One of the hosts, William Duplessis, doled out caviar and route. And we can see here some of the pictures here of the private plane and a couple of these guys on the plane. They look like a couple characters. Look like they're rather enjoying themselves. So Duplessis, a 33-year-old college dropout and crypto investor, and his co-host John Woeltz, 37 years old, a cryptology and cybersecurity specialist from Paducah, Kentucky, had set out to ingratiate themselves with members of some of the wealthiest, most influential families in America. The two men were on a mission that, whatever it was at the start, disintegrated into a weeks-long binge of cocaine, booze, and spending. It ended in May with arrests and allegations of kidnapping and torture within the posh confines of a $75,000 a month rental in Manhattan, according to witnesses and courtroom testimony. Duplessis and Woeltz had money to burn. Alleged winnings from cryptocurrency endeavors that they spent at a breakneck pace on guns, drugs, real estate, and entertainment. These guys sound like a lot of fun. In January, they bought a house in Smithland where $1.5 million went a long way. A furnished 6-bedroom mansion with black marble floors, chandeliers, winding staircases, and a swimming pool on nearly 2 acres. That was where the Palm Beach crowd gathered in February. So again, we have some pictures here of this Palm Beach estate. Pretty impressive, no doubt. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this was the Smithland, Kentucky property here, and then a staircase within the house itself. So, again, still very impressive here. Looking good. Party guests donned camouflage fatigues and played with military-style guns, night vision goggles, and a 6-wheel off-road vehicle around the snowy property during the 2-day bacchanal. Duplessis and Woeltz claim to have a trove of crypto capital ready to invest, a lure for some guests who joined the trip. One acquaintance said the men talked up plans to buy land and develop Western Kentucky's economy, investing in hydroelectric dams and a luxury hotel. Duplessis, who had the state seal tattooed on his chest at some point during the festivities, was weighing a long-shot bid for the Senate seat of former Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. And I guess this is him getting his tattoo here in this video with the state seal on his body. Like I said, it gets wild. Then the good times dissolved into a paranoid nightmare. The two men who were going through cocaine by the pile told guests that they were more than just crypto investors. They claimed that they met while working with U.S. intelligence services on clandestine crypto-related missions, hunting terrorists. Duplessis and Woeltz bragged that they had recently abducted a German man they described as a terrorist, saying they killed him after stealing his cryptocurrency, according to people on the trip. Duplessis and Woeltz typed messages on the dozens of typewriters scattered around the house, saying they feared they were under surveillance by the Chinese government, a guest said. One recalled Duplessis putting a gun to the head of his personal chef. Nobody knew what to believe about their hosts until 3 months later. So on May 23rd, a 28-year-old cryptocurrency trader from Italy ran shoeless and bleeding from Duplessis and Woeltz's 8-bedroom townhouse in Manhattan and begged a New York City traffic cop for help. He said the men had held him for more than 2 weeks using torture to try to pry loose passwords to his cryptocurrency accounts. They dangled him from the top of five flights of stairs, threatened to kill him if he didn't cough up a ransom, the man alleged in a criminal complaint. Lawyers declined to comment on behalf of Duplessis and Woeltz, who have pleaded not guilty to charges of assault, kidnapping, and coercion. If convicted, they could face life in prison. So this article is based on court records, phone recordings, government records, emails, photographs, and text messages reviewed by the Wall Street Journal, as well as interviews with people who spent time with Duplessis and Woeltz in New York, Kentucky, California, and Florida. So now we get into opposites attract. So Duplessis and Woeltz, who told an acquaintance they met online several years ago, were raised in blue and red states respectively and appeared to have little in common except an interest in making a killing in crypto. Duplessis grew up in Connecticut. As a child of privilege, the son of a prominent hedge fund manager, he studied business at Tulane University from 2015 to 2016, but didn't graduate. Friends and acquaintances called him energetic and gregarious. He drove a Porsche and Lamborghini sports cars, sometimes dangerously fast, and collected speeding tickets, according to court records and one of his friends. In 2017, he briefly dated Caroline Biden, former President Joe Biden's niece, another big-name connection, according to a friend from California. Duplessis called Biden to say she looked hot in courtroom photos, the friend said. She allegedly spent $110,000 on a friend's credit card without permission and pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. Duplessis was part of a growing collection of cryptocurrency entrepreneurs in Lugano, Switzerland. For 3 years, he ran a Luxembourg-based crypto investment fund with his father that initially raised $22 million, according to a 2019 announcement. The fund began liquidating in 2022 after a legal fight over performance fees. He returned to the U.S. that year to a rental apartment in Miami and was later sued by a landlord at a luxury car rental company for missing payments. Maybe he met up with those guys and were involved with Bitcoin. You have to go back and watch that documentary. You'll love it. One suit was settled and the other resulted in a default judgment against him, court record shows. Now, Woeltz, on the other hand, grew up in Paducah, the son of a neurologist and a microbiologist. He was a gifted student who graduated from the University of Kentucky in 2012 before moving to California with a budding interest in cryptography and cybersecurity. He was drawn to open source cryptocurrency projects designed to let users transact anonymously. The most prominent, a privacy coin called Grincoin, grew out of a joint effort by developers who often used pseudonyms from the Harry Potter series. Woeltz's shy, soft-spoken personality seemed to reflect his interest in anonymous transactions. Duplessis, 6'5", 220 pounds, was a looming, raucous presence at parties and nightclubs. Woeltz, a shorter, more slender man, often sat quietly in a corner wearing sunglasses, according to people who socialized with both men. Now we go into owning Manhattan. So weeks after buying the Kentucky mansion, Duplessis and Woeltz landed in New York, where they racked up six-figure bills staying at luxury hotels. They ate in high-end restaurants and dropped huge sums of for private tables and bottle service at nightclubs. In March, they told acquaintances they were booted from the five-star Amen Hotel on Fifth Avenue and West 57th Street, the neighborhood known colloquially as Billionaires Row. They sought help finding a more permanent residence from Jessica Markowski, a luxury real estate agent and star of the Netflix reality show Owning Manhattan. Duplessis and Woeltz leased an 8-bedroom brick townhouse in Manhattan's schwanky Nolita neighborhood. One advertised feature, soundproof stone walls more than a foot thick. Fascinating. Duplessis took a bedroom on the second floor, and Woeltz took the fourth floor. The third floor was an office. They talked about turning the basement into a nightclub. They hired staff, including young women, as personal assistants. For security, they hired a moonlighting New York City detective who worked on Mayor Eric Adams' protection detail. To decorate the house, the men sought help from the Palm Beach and New York-based art consultant Peter Brandt Jr., the son of billionaire Peter Brandt and supermodel Stephanie Seymour. Brandt Jr. went to see their townhouse and steered his new clients to decorators and art galleries, which paid him a commission, according to a person familiar with the details. Duplessis and Woeltz dropped about $400,000 on furniture and artwork, the person said. Never mind. A little more than a week before the party plane to Smithland, a Holiday Inn clerk in nearby Paducah called 911 for help. A German-speaking guest, the clerk said, shared alarming text messages from her son who was visiting the U.S. from Switzerland. So in English, it's saying, "They don't want to let me go Bitcoin." The clerk said, relaying the text after running them through a phone translator. "Need help. They are armed to the brim." The mother said her son, Michael Maurer, went to see a friend named John in Smithland on Birdsville Road, the street where Woeltz owned a smaller house. Woeltz had worked with Maurer on the Grin Coin project 5 years earlier. As the 911 dispatcher coordinated a police response, she dished with the dispatcher in neighboring Livingston County, where Smithland is located. According to the 911 recordings, "This isn't the first call we've had with Mr. John or Mr. Williams," the Livingston dispatcher said. "This is not what I'd expect for a typical Sunday night in Livingston County," the Paducah dispatcher said. "When they moved to town, nothing's been typical," the Livingston dispatcher responded. Not long after, Maurer called his mother to say he had been released. He walked to an intersection of Smithland where he was met by an officer. Maurer didn't respond to requests for comment. Now we get into electioneering. So Scott Hernandez, 37, met Duplessis and Woeltz on the party plane to Smithland in February and brought with him impressive political connections. Hernandez spent several years at investment bank Barclays, where he worked with former Florida Governor Jeb Bush. According to two people familiar with the matter, Hernandez's mother is a major Republican donor and fundraiser who backed the presidential campaigns of Bush, Texas Senator Ted Cruz, and President Trump. Hernandez's father ran the Spanish-language media company Telemundo before its $539 million acquisition by Sony and Telecommunications in 1997. In the years since, he has served on the boards of Fox Corp, MGM Resorts International, and Walmart. Fox and the Journal's parent company, News Corp, shares common ownership. After the Smithland trip, Hernandez joined Duplessis and Woeltz for a few nights out in New York, where Hernandez lived. Duplessis told Hernandez about his idea of seeking McConnell's Senate seat in the 2026 midterm election. Here you can see Scott Hernandez at the Smithland, Kentucky party house. Pretty wild picture there. On Duplessis' behalf, Hernandez contacted Betsy Ankney, a Republican campaign strategist who ran former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley's 2024 presidential bid. Hernandez didn't know Ankney, but she agreed to meet with Duplessis on the strength of Hernandez's family ties. On March 7th, Ankney emailed a tentative plan for Duplessis to strengthen his public profile. It included weekly media training sessions and appearances at the Kentucky Derby and other state events. Duplessis talked about plans for what he called the Wildcat Fund, which would buy distressed land and assets from Chinese investors in Kentucky and other heartland states. Acquaintances said Duplessis and Woeltz often expressed hostility toward China. Like Duplessis' blockchain fund, the Wildcat Fund would potentially trade on the reputation of his father, James Duplessis, who was listed as the fund's chief investment officer in a draft document. The elder Duplessis didn't respond to requests for comment. Yeah, nothing shocking there. Ankney thought the notion of a young self-made crypto billionaire buying back land from China might yield political returns from among conservatives, according to her memo. Oh yes, I'm sure that was the winning strategy, no doubt. During Ankney's second of two meetings with Duplessis, she visited the Nolita townhouse Still bare beyond the bar stools and trays of fruit, meat, and cheese sitting on counters, Duplessis was polite but seemed unfocused, tapping away at an iPad and chain smoking. Duplessis told Acne that he and Woeltz planned to turn the townhouse basement into a nightclub, and she said if he was serious about running for office, he should avoid flashy nightlife altogether. Acne charged $30,000 for her initial services, and Duplessis asked whether she would accept cryptocurrency. She declined. The consulting arrangement lasted less than a month, of course. By late March, Acne stopped hearing from the two men and assumed they had lost interest. Brandt Jr. cut ties with Duplessis and Woeltz after the two men were late on a $100,000 payment to a luxury furniture supplier he had referred them to, said a person familiar with the matter. Hernandez also distanced himself, deciding that they were big on ideas they couldn't sustain. Yet Duplessis and Woeltz ascended in the New York social scene, snagging seats at a star-studded Met Gala after party on May 5th, hosted by nightlife kingpin Richie Akiva. They were among the A-list guests at the soiree, including Stevie Wonder, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Mayor Adams. Akiva didn't respond to requests for comments on here. Here's a picture of, I guess, these guys at the New York party, the Met Gala. And now we get into that's not torture. The day after the Met Gala party, Michael Valentino, Teofrasco Cacciarano landed in New York. Carturin, I'm sorry, I'm messing this guy's name up horribly. Carturin had introduced Duplessis to Woeltz, according to prosecutors. Carturin told his family he wanted to sightsee and practice his English on the trip. He was picked up by one of Duplessis and Woeltz's security guards and driven to the Nolita townhouse. There are two versions of what happened next, one from Carturin and prosecutors, another from lawyers representing Duplessis and Woeltz. So prosecutors said Woeltz and Duplessis had been threatening Carturin and his family for months, and that they had forced him to transfer cryptocurrency to them on an earlier visit. His May trip had been arranged with the promise of retrieving some of the crypto they had taken, they said. Duplessis and Woeltz took away Carturin's electronic devices and passport as soon as he arrived at the townhouse, Carturin told authorities. They put an Apple AirTag around his neck to track his movements and bound his hands. Then the torture started, prosecutors allege. Carturin claimed Duplessis and Woeltz beat him, shocked him with electric wires, and cut his legs with a small electric chainsaw, according to court papers. Prosecutors said in court the two men doused Carturin with tequila and set his clothes on fire. They put out the fire by urinating on him, prosecutors said. No burns were found on Carturin's body, they said. Wayne Gosnell, Woeltz's attorney, said the flames may have been started but were harmless. That's not torture, that's a prank, Gosnell said at a July 23rd bail hearing in New York. Carturin told police Duplessis and Woeltz took photos trying to show that Carturin wasn't a captive. Police found T-shirts printed with a photo showing Carturin with a crack cocaine pipe in his mouth. At times, he said he was unbound, but told if he escaped, the men would track him down and kill him and his family. In court hearings, defense attorneys for Woeltz and Duplessis and Carturin had been seen going to church services, dinners, nightclubs, and stores. Carturin came to New York to join Woeltz and Duplessis' business ventures as well as their libertine lifestyle, according to the lawyers, and it was quite a lifestyle, Costell told the judge at the July 23rd hearing. He described it as a frat house with essentially unlimited funds, and Carturin a pledge who was willing to undergo a hazing to join. Prosecutors cited text messages from employees at the house saying Carturin was under constant surveillance and could be put in a cage if he left a room without permission. Defense attorneys said the text, which were read aloud in court, lacked context and should be taken as jokes. Carturin told investigators that on May 23rd, he agreed to reveal his passwords after being pistol whipped and dangled from a multi-story stairwell when Woeltz left the room to retrieve Carturin's laptop. Carturin saw a chance to escape and sprinted out of the house. Police found blood evidence in spots where Couturin said he had been tortured, photos of Couturin with a gun pointed at his head, as well as crack cocaine, body armor, night vision goggles, and a loaded pistol. Prosecutors said police found fake documents that purported to charge Couturin with violations of the Anti-Terror Patriot Act statutes. Weeks later, federal agents searched the mansion in Smithland as well as Woeltz's nearby home. They found what prosecutors described as a manifesto explaining how they would use psychological warfare techniques to gain the trust of foreigners and seize their cryptocurrency. We will take crypto and Bitcoin from evil people that are using it to fund terrorism, according to prosecutors who read aloud portions of the document at the bail hearing. Duplessis and Woeltz were granted permission to be released on bail from New York's Rikers Island jail complex and await trial under house arrest. Bail was set at $1 million each on Thursday. Woeltz was fitted for an ankle monitor and walked from the courthouse. Duplessis, who in his political plan was to launch his Senate campaign in July, remained in custody. So I mean, here are these two guys in court. I mean, just what an absolutely wild, crazy story here. Like I said, this is sure to be the next Netflix documentary, but I have also reported on in the crypto series, I mean, just a number of stories of, crypto kidnappings, wealthy people or famous people who had been kidnapped or had been assaulted, basically, with shady criminal types trying to get to their crypto holdings. So, but I mean, what's the truth here? The truth in this one is probably somewhere in the middle. They were probably friends with this guy. They probably invited him out. Couturin probably invited him out. It probably did start, I would think, as maybe some kind of a quasi frat house hazing type of thing. But I think at the end of the day that these guys had a plot, they had a plan, allegedly, and that this was much more nefarious at the end of the day. Like, they lured this guy out there. Maybe they had a lot of fun at first, and then it just got crazy. And they basically held this guy against his will, beat him up, tried to force him to, give his password so that they could get a hold of his cryptocurrency, that kind of thing. So, and again, say allegedly, these guys are, these guys have not been convicted of anything. They still got to go through court and all that. But again, just a wild and crazy story from the crypto world here, no doubt. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed this wild story. As another installment here of the crypto series. But that being said, I would basically ask you to like, share, and subscribe, as that always helps the channel. Remember, we're on Rumble, YouTube, and all major podcast platforms. Please be sure to leave your comments down below, as I always love hearing back from everybody. If you haven't checked out any of the other episodes in the crypto series, please do so. There's a lot of everything crypto in there, a lot of entertaining stuff. I've covered anything and everything crypto, a whole history of crypto winter, crypto fraud, crypto crisis, all this kind of stuff. So be sure to check that out. As always, make sure to check out some of the other content on the channel. I've got a lot great stuff up there. I got interviews, talk about all things banking and finance related. And if you have never checked out the BND Strategy Room live stream, which is the main show of the channel, which is done every Saturday night at 8 o'clock on YouTube, please go on and check that out. That being said, I hope everybody has a great day out there. Thank you for listening, and I will see everyone again real soon. Thank